Disclaimer. We are interested in everything and experts in nothing. We enjoy learning, but get it wrong sometimes. We mean no disrespect, and if we mess up, kindly correct us. Let's take this ride together, unless your intention is to cause harm or distress, in which case, with utmost haste, fuck right off.
Episode 24.
Woo! This one's mine.
Yeah.
And I am doing death masks.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So death masks, why is this a thing?
Tell me.
Are funeral preps bored and need some craft time? Should we get them out of the morgue and into the daylight immediately? None of the above, apparently.
Oh.
But, whatever.
This is a really great question, though.
I
really want to know what the purpose is.
We're going
Why
for it.
did we do this?
Okay, so a death mask is a likeness, typically in wax or plaster cast, of a person's face after death. Usually made by taking a cast or impression from the corpse.
Not at all morbid.
Not at all morbid. Death masks may be mementos of the dead or be used for the creation of portraits.
Okay.
It is sometimes possible to identify a portrait that has been painted from a death mask because of the characteristic slight distortion of the features caused by the weight of the plaster during the making of the mold. So if their face looks a little stretched backwards, like before the days of plastic surgery, it's because the death mask mold pulled their skin back a little bit.
Okay.
The main purpose of the death mask from the Middle Ages until the 19th century was to serve as a model for sculptors in creating statues and busts of the deceased person. So they can't sit for their portrait anymore because they dead. So we're going to get a proxy for you to work off of.
Is there really a huge demand for portraits of dead people?
If they're high society, kings, rulers, famous people, yeah.
Okay.
So, not until the 1800s did such masks become valued for themselves. So before, historically, they're just making the mask so that they have a template to, pour goo on his face instead of, tracing over their face with pencil and paper. They're just going to make a mask of it and then follow the mold and go from there.
So they were a means to an end originally.
They were originally a means to an end.
Okay.
But in the 1800s, they started to become a memento of itself.
Like a souvenir?
We're keeping this death mask of grandma. Okay. We're going to get there. In other cultures, death masks are considered funeral masks.
Okay.
Now, these are an image placed on the deceased before the burial rites and normally buried with them.
So that's less weird to me for some reason.
Yeah, because this is not a cast or a mask of their face. The best known of these masks are used in ancient Egypt as part of the mummification process, such as Tutankhamun's mask and those from Mycenaean Greece, such as the Mask of Agamemnon.
Okay.
So these are ornate funeral masks. They're not, they could be trying to approximate the likeness, but they're ornate. They're gilded. Tutankhamun's was gilded and had jewels and was painted with the vibrance and all that stuff. It was just a funeral mask.
So that for some reason it's not as weird to me because that's almost like honoring the dead person.
It's kind of like
a paying respects kind of thing.
Putting the coins on the eyes to pay the ferryman type situation.
Yeah, over the river Styx. What's the ferryman's name? Do you remember?
Karen.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. In European countries, it was common for death masks to be used as part of an effigy of the deceased, displayed at state funerals. The coffin portrait was an alternative.
Okay.
Mourning portraits were also painted, showing the subject lying in repose. So basically a legitimate portrait of the dead dude.
Like they just painted the dead body?
Yeah.
Okay.
During the 18th and 19th centuries, masks were also used to permanently record the features of unknown corpses for the purpose of identification. This function was later replaced by postmortem photography.
Okay, that also makes sense to me.
It does make sense.
That I get.
I totally have this vision, you know, in Bones, where they have the bone room where they're just pulling out, like,
yes.
Could you imagine having a mask room where they're like, is this your dead brother? No? Okay, shut that. Is this your dead brother? No? Okay, shut that. Just a room full of plaster masks of dead people that are unnamed.
I find that less creepy than the bone room for some reason.
I find the mask creepier, but that's just me. Okay, so in the cases of people whose faces were damaged by their death,
ooh, yeah,
it was common to take casts of their hands.
Okay.
So an example of that is Thomas Arcy Mcgee. He was a Canadian statesman whose face was shattered by the bullet which was used to assassinate him in 1868. So there's no point of making a death mask because there's no face left.
That's so tragic.
Yeah, so they took a cast of his hands.
But, okay, what is... Of all the purposes we just mentioned, well, the only one the hands can be is, like, mementos.
Well, they were saying that they were displayed at state funerals, so they couldn't display his face. So you couldn't have a funeral where here's the effigy or the coffin portrait, but at least his hands are here?
Okay,
we're just going with it. It was the 1800s. They didn't have anything else to do.
Okay, you say that, but you know, like Renfest, where like
you do the molds of your hands, like
and like the wax or whatever.
Yeah.
That was always kind of creepy to me, and I think it's because which was the one that had like the hand that just walked on its own? Was it the Addams Family? Yeah, that one. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I think it ruined all of them for me.
That's fair.
I just don't want to see hands by themselves doing anything.
It's fair. You know, I mean, Doctor Who had made a clone of a Time Lord, so you know.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, that one's okay though because the 10th Doctor gets a pass on everything.
So Thing is a problem.
Yes, I don't like that.
But everything else, you know, which way do they call him Thing? He was obviously a hand.
I have no idea.
They couldn't have called him Hammond. Like Handman or what? Or like, you know,
Handrew.
Old Fingers. Handrew. Yes, Handrew. He's forever renamed as Handrew.
Yes.
Okay, so moving back onto the subject, when taken from a living subject, such a cast is called a life mask.
Well, that makes sense.
Makes sense, you know. But here's my thought: how unpleasant was that? Because what kind of shit were they using to make a mask? Because I remember, like, in the 6th grade or some shit, we were doing that paper mache, and we had to put that stuff on our face, and we had like straws up our nostrils so we could breathe. And I'm like, this is like waterboarding before I knew what waterboarding was.
Okay, you did it differently in your school because we had like these little plastic generic faces that we did paper mache and painted them.
No. They did them on our faces.
Oh, I don't like that. It was probably Making of Alien 3, right? Where they showed making the like plaster faces of the people that they used for like the punch. What do you call it? The punch tongue. I don't think that's what it's called.
The punch tongue?
You know, where it bites through people's heads with
the inner mouth.
The one that snaps out real hard, punches through things. Yeah, that they used like plaster molds to make those faces that they used in those scenes. Anyway, but they also had the little straws up their noses.
Poking out of your nose, and I'm like, maybe some kids were suddenly awakened to BDSM after that, and if so, good for them as long as they're safe.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not into this breath play for this art grade. This is bullshit. I want to go home. But anyway,
I feel like at 6th grade, it's a bit young for any of that. So
moving on. I actually think it was younger than 6th grade. But either way, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. I know that I went to the same school as you until 5th grade for me, 4th grade for you.
Right.
And I didn't do it there.
It was Miss Carter. It was Miss Carter, the art teacher from North Avenue.
I remember Miss Carter. Well, it must have been then 5th or 6th grade for you because I was gone then.
Yeah. No, there's kids. Whoever's getting their face mask made had to lie in the hallway while like 3 other kids were laying like paper mache shit over their face, and they had to have this like headband so that their hair didn't get caught in. How did they let... No, they wouldn't do that shit.
I don't know. Yeah, it was like we made face masks too, but it was like a generic plastic face, like a tray.
Probably
almost.
Because Miss Carter went, and don't do that. Get a Halloween mask for 10 cents from the Dollar Tree. Have them do that.
And we had like these plaster strips. It was like...
We had to do the fucking ghetto.
It was not paper mache.
Paper mache.
It was like plaster strips. You dipped the plaster strip in, you laid it down, and then used your fingers to smooth it.
Oh yeah, we did too. But that was with some old ass newspaper and whatever the paper mache liquid shit was.
It was definitely not that.
No.
Nope.
No. Okay, so repressed memory for me just came back roaring in, and I'm going to need to get some therapy after that. But moving on. So, the life mask. Proponents of phrenology use both death masks and life masks for the pseudoscientific purposes. Now, you remember phrenology?
Phrenology, was that like the
whole, like, the measurement and the bumps on your skull?
The bumps on the skull.
To predict your mental traits, and based on the concept that the brain is the organ of the mind, and that certain brain areas have localized specific functions or modules. So the fact that you fell off a swing when you were 6 and got a giant ass goose egg that never went down is apparently going to make you a psychopath or something. It's pseudoscience. It's been proved bullshit.
I mean, but nothing you said there was actually that wrong, because...
Okay, yeah, fine. They had injuries, yes. I just meant if you had a misshapen skull for any reason, that does not mean that you're going to have a specific personality trait.
No, correct. That's true. But, I mean, the brain does have different compartments that do different jobs. So, I mean, they were on the right track. They just got it really wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how bumpy your head is. Well, unless you gave those bumps to yourself or got them in some kind of accident.
Correct.
Then you're fucked.
Correct.
But anyway.
Yes.
So still, but that's like why you see those old doctors' offices, the busts of the heads with like the writing on it and, you know, this, that, and the other thing. Never understood it. I always thought it was weird, but then, you know.
Oh, I thought it was cool.
I thought it was cool.
We're so different this episode. It's crazy.
Well, no, I mean, I thought it was cool. And I just could imagine like playing with the head all day. I just didn't know why. Why was it there? Why are they colored on the head? I was little. I don't. I didn't understand the concept of phrenology and pseudosciences yet.
Yeah.
Masks of deceased persons are part of traditions in many countries. The most important process of the funeral ceremony in ancient Egypt was the mummification of the body, which after prayers and consecration was put into a sarcophagus, enameled and decorated with gold gems.
Ooh.
We knew that. A special element of this rite was a sculpted mask put on the face of the deceased. This mask was believed to strengthen the spirit of the mummy and guard the soul from evil spirits on its way to the afterworld. So, all right. Obviously, Tutankhamun's mask was made of golden gems, and it conveys highly stylized features of the ruler. Such masks were not made from the cast of the features.
Okay.
So they didn't cast it first. But then the mummification process itself preserved the features of the deceased.
True.
So they would, lay this on the mummified head. And as the mummification process happened, the face mask would kind of automatically mold to whatever prominence was still left. Because it was usually soft metals, like gold and stuff like that.
That's cool.
It is cool. The lifelike character of Roman portrait sculptures has been attributed to the earlier Roman use of wax to preserve the features of a deceased family member. This is so-called imagens memoriam.
Okay.
So the wax masks were subsequently reproduced into more durable stone. So nothing like pouring hot wax all over the face of dead grandma.
Oh, good point.
I am sure she wasn't watching in horror on her way to the next life. Like, what the fuck is wrong with my family? Like, what the fuck?
I mean, that's a good point. I was with you. Like, oh yeah, wax would be very malleable. That would be good. Until you actually put the dots together. Okay, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Pour hot wax on the face of this dead person. They won't care.
I mean, they won't.
They truly won't. But, sending them to their funeral, why do they have third-degree burns? I thought they died from a heart attack. The wax was too hot. Yeah, no. Problematic. Roman elites used, during the funerals, death masks, which were, in fact, casts made during life. So, again, the life mask, they made them at some point.
Like in preparation?
Just kind of, yeah. But they were elite, so probably it was one of those rich people bullshit things of like, I'm going to have a cast made of my face while I'm young and beautiful, so I'll always remember I was young and beautiful, because apparently